Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right, welcome, Fade to Black. Yeah, you've been waiting for this one. It is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Let's do this, man. Yeah. What an amazing week here on Fade to Black. Monday night, JK Ultra was here. Absolutely amazing show. And last night, JP Hague was here. Got cut off by the man. That was amazing. And as soon as you mention spy agencies, right? That was crazy. That was a lot of fun. And evidence for all of you, they are listening. They are always listening. Tonight, David, the Leo King Palmer, is back with us. Yes, one of my best friends, but that's not even the point. One of the most amazing people that I know, and a great guest. And we've got a lot to talk about tonight. He's with us tonight. Tomorrow night, Glynis McCants is with us. We're going to be doing numerology. And I think she's going to run my numbers tonight, tomorrow night, live on the air. I've got a bunch of events coming up. And I want to remind everybody, Contact in the Desert, I will be hosting their 10th anniversary party. That's right. CITD is 10 years old. Celebrating Thursday night, May 30th in the Crystal Ballroom, in the big ballroom that holds about 2,000 people, 2,500 people. And there you go. So that's Thursday night at Contact in the Desert, May 30th. At the Renaissance Hotel there in Palm Springs. So I'll see everybody there. Go to contactinthedesert.com for tickets and information. And then coming up immediately after that, David Palmer and myself will be at DisclosureFest, Stairway to the Stars at Castaic Lake. And that is summer solstice, June 21st through the 23rd. Right here next to Magic Mountain, right off the 5 freeway, Castaic Lake. I think we have, this is the first time we've done it there at this location. But I think we have 65 acres. We have the beach. The main stage is going to be facing the beach. Really, really cool layout. And if you go to DisclosureFest.org, you can see the map and everything else and get your tickets. Right now, early bird tickets are still available. So get your weekend tickets, all right? And I'll give away a pair of tickets tonight on the show with David, too, as well. I'll ask David how he wants to give those away, and we will do that. So tonight it is David Palmer, and I've called tonight's show a Leo King evening. And the thing with David is that I can talk about anything. And I usually say that about every guest because that's how I select guests. And that's what I like to do. It's just an open conversation. But with David, I can go anywhere. Now, astrology, yes. Stars, yes. Planets, yes. History, yes. Connection to historic events and astrology, yes. We can do all of that. But there's everything else. David is so fun to talk to and to get his take on things. And we have done it many, many, many nights, both at my house and at conferences and running late. I was going to say late into the evening, early into the morning. We're going to be doing all of that tonight. He's a world famous celebrity astrologer. He's a DJ. You know what? He's let me stand on the stage with him and DJ. It's a pretty fun time, man. He's a DJ. He's a professional. Now check this out. He's a professional jet ski racer. And you need to, if you haven't already, go and look up David Palmer jet ski and watch some of those videos that are out there at the different events. It's pretty amazing. And his TV shows and everything else, the Disruptive Spiritual Network, High Vibe TV, all of that. The links are below for David. And you can just go to theleoking.com. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only David Palmer. He's right there. David. Okay, so tonight, is this the battle of the cameras? And you know, so here's the thing. I'm just going to tell everybody for transparency, David. David and I are a lot alike, and that's one of the reasons why we do vibe with each other, and we're really good friends. But we're into the same things. We're into cars and engines and motorcycles and technology and conspiracies and things and music and all of these things. And we're in competition. You know, it's one of those things, man. You know,
healthy though. It's good.
It's healthy. And so I'm looking. As everybody knows, I've rebuilt my studio. I have a nice studio. David, you've been here. You know, it's
nice.
No,
it's bad. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Don't
it's amazing.
undercut it at all.
But I need your look. You know, and so that's it, man. I'm not going to be happy until I have that secret Leo King setting in my software. And so, but I'm going to get there. I'm going with your help. This time, you're going to have to help me.
I would love to. I mean, I was telling you earlier, we all go through life in such weird ways. And if you look at the world today, it's like, instead of focusing on how crazy it is, it's just like we learn, right? I bought cinema cameras in 2018. And for 3 years having a TV studio, I didn't even use all the cool things because I got too busy or I didn't want to like take the time to figure it out. And I was like, the whole time I could have been doing this. You know?
Yeah, I know. And when you make there's a perception out there. David owns his own network. I own my own network, and you have to stay ahead of the curve, and you have to invest into. You just can't. And there's a perception today, and this is the perception. It's such an instant world. And this ties into astrology too, as well, where there is a perception that if you get a MacBook with a camera and a USB microphone and start a YouTube channel, that you have instant success. It ain't that kind of party. It's just not. It's not. And there's the sweat equity on the other side that you have to put into this. Nothing. There's no positive without a negative. That's how the universe works. But the other part of it is to do what I do here, or to do what David does. You would be shocked, and it would discourage people too as well. I thought about it. Have you thought about doing a studio how-to video and just go through and show everybody what you've got and what it takes for a setup and what the gear? Have you thought about doing that, or do you think it would intimidate people and discourage them?
In 2017, I did. It was like an add-on tier to, like, I called it Leo King Elite. It was like an astrology school, but then there was for a special add-on for people that wanted to go farther and creating a TV studio and so forth. And you know, that was 2017 though, and I was in my prior studio, which was 1,500 square feet. This is 13,000 square feet. So, I haven't tried to undertake this one yet. What I do is I do events here now, and I just have people come from all over the world, and they come to the studios to see it and see me put it all together live in motion and so forth, and actually see it and touch it and hang out and see the vibe.
Yeah, it's so funny how I have people come over and they walk into the studio and they go, oh, I had no idea. And I'm thinking about it. What did you think was going on?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here at a coffee table, right? What do you think? You thought this was a green screen?
I know that's what we were saying right before this. I was like, I wouldn't pick all the stuff up behind me. Like, no, this isn't green screen. Those are my lions. Like, you know.
Yeah, so many guests when we go through sound check, they'll go, man, that's an amazing green screen. And this is what I do. As soon as they say that, I go, I know, and it's new technology. I got it from Elon Musk.
That's
and they
hilarious.
go, really? And I go, yeah, check this out. It's a green screen, but you can do this. Right? And they go, how do I get that software? I go, what?
OpenAI.
Oh, man. Oh, geez. So anyway, DisclosureFest. Let's start here. Let's go right. Let's jump right into astrology and talk about things, because summer solstice. That's the weekend of the summer solstice,
and a full moon,
and a full moon,
which will be one of two full moons in Cancer season with the Capricorn full moon. There's going to be 2 full moons in Capricorn, no full moon in Cancer this year.
And so, what does that mean to me?
Well, to you, I'll lump you in with all of us. It means that full moon in Cancer, Cancer's the home, the moon is the one that rules the sign of Cancer. So if you don't have a full moon in Cancer, that means we're not getting that extra comfort in the world this year. But with Capricorn having 2 of those, which Pluto is coming back into Capricorn for its last time in September. It leaves in November, and that's been 16 years since 2008 when it came in, and the whole world changed. And now we're seeing Pluto leave Capricorn this year to come into Aquarius full time, and that's why you're seeing the world at such a transformational phase. Of course, there's also the other outer planets that are moving signs next year. So everything does feel like quote unquote end times. But if you have 2 full moons in Capricorn, the grind of getting through these moments feel more intense. But if you're somebody who likes hiking per se of life and looks at it like, you know, no pain, no gain in a positive way, you know what I mean? Like when you're hiking and it just feels good. I feel like right now, this is our biggest test for humanity, for ourselves every day. And you know what? I don't want that extra comfort. I want humanity to wake up and push ourselves to be better and to really make this place better than it's ever been. Instead of looking at problems that need to be fixed, it's like, well, let's do things amazing now. You know, I think it's a great thing.
There's another way to look at this, which is, do we have to get to the light, to know what good is and to know what progress is? Do we have to see the dark, right? How do you need a barometer? If you don't test yourselves, then how do you know you're making progress, right?
Yeah. I mean, like when I was 14 in high school, freshman, you could go off campus. I went to Burger King, and there was the first girl in high school that I had a crush on, and it rained that day, which doesn't happen in SoCal much. And so they had the little yellow signs that say wet floor because they were constantly mopping it. Well, I wanted to like just walk by her and at least look at her, impress her. And I wasn't paying attention. I slipped and hit my head on the concrete of the floor of Burger King, and my food went flying and everybody made fun of me. But, you know, sometimes that moment has to happen for me to realize, okay, if I have a crush on a girl when I'm in high school, maybe I don't need to like kind of lose it too much and pay attention more to my surroundings. So yeah, I think that we can look at it like dark, or we could look at it like we have these huge moments that consciously come. The unconscious has to be there in order for the conscious to be understood, right? Just how we were talking about cameras earlier. It was like, you mean to tell me the cinema cameras can do this and I wasn't using that, right? It's like, that's unconscious. That means there is no information there. All that really is that light is information and no light is no information. Right? That's why we're scared of the dark, because we don't have the info of what's in there. So we start to make up information in our mind. Right.
And now staying with where we are right now, not talking about politics or anything like that, just in general with
I think we're all over politics.
Yeah. I'm done. Well, I never talk about it on the show anyway.
Yeah.
But the other part of this is that what I do hear quite often is that this right now, the stars and the way things are lining up, this is the craziest time in history. And I just go, wait a minute. I'm not a historian, but World War II really sucked. World War I really sucked. Right? These were, and even in World War I, we had a worldwide pandemic that killed like 40, 50 million people too as well. And where if you look at the rate of trauma that was going down back then, it's like how can you forget about that? I'm not saying that today isn't crazy, but it kind of always is, but at different levels of crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time astrologically that you could mix the Revolutionary War of Pluto leaving Capricorn into Aquarius like it did in 1777 when we started the Revolutionary War. Neptune at the end of Pisces, which we're at right now, where the Civil War broke out. And when it comes into Aries next year, the exact same, we're in the same phase. That was also the Dred Scott case. That was also the Carrington event of 1859. And what did we just have? A huge geomagnetic storm, the biggest that we've seen in our lives. And at least, you can go back 100 years, G5 storm. Then you, of course, mix in World War II with Uranus exactly in the position when Hitler invaded Poland right now.
So
and with Jupiter in 1940 when Hitler invaded France.
And from where I sit, and this is the crazy part, where I understand all of that and I see it and I get it, but from where I'm sitting and like physically, geographically, and the way that I choose to use this information, then I feel differently and take it differently than everybody else. And that's what you should do. It's how, right? It's how you how you look at it and how you take advantage of the information.
Yeah, like how did people think, Benjamin Franklin, for example, founding father, he wasn't even in America during the whole war. He was in France as a diplomat and was the one that negotiated and finally got a bunch of people to give money, but then eventually got to the king to be able to sign a treaty to help out the Americans, and then had to do the Treaty of Paris after it to get us our true independence seen by England and to have France be okay with us because they weren't too happy with us after the war because we weren't able to pay our money back. Although that kind of feels like the Ukraine situation a little bit. Right.
But like I
said, think about it. All the money, all the things, and then America's getting upset. That's what France did. And we're in the same astrology.
And if we go from right now, you're talking about the macro. And then does the same apply to the individual down to the micro?
Yeah, big time. Everybody right now at their life has the big questions, and knowing that it's like when you're in the ocean, right? A set is coming in and you've heard the lifeguards have put up a red flag. Doesn't mean it's the end of the world, number one. But it's like, okay, there's a big set. I'm going to be swimming out there. When the big one comes, do I ride the wave or do I just swim under it? Like or do I get out of the water? These are moments that people are trying to understand, like what's going to happen. And I don't think that we need to go into prepper mode. I believe that the conscious moment here is when the universe does so much at one moment like this, which you've never seen. It's a lot like Time Wave Zero or like Terrence McKenna. It's like compression, like we see in audio files or we see in how we compress things. It's a lot. It feels like we're in Star Wars. We're in like a big trash bin, you know what I mean? And we're in the Death Star, and like, is this thing going to close in on us? Because all the planets are on one side of the whole entire solar system, 180 degrees, including Earth. Everything's on one side. So everything is lumped on one side. A whole 180 degrees of the solar system or the zodiac is completely empty.
I have David, I think, has the same thing. So on my phone, I have my screensaver is the planet positions. And I've never seen it like that. This is
it happens.
It's empty.
Just rare.
Look at that.
Yeah, everything's on one. Actually, it's going to be this Friday into Saturday that you'll see Earth opposing Jupiter, and that will be the moment that everything's within 180 degrees, and Earth's about to go and pass every planet. Right?
Yeah, it's
except,
crazy.
Of course, for Mercury and Venus, because actually we're also shifting Venus star points. You can see Earth is starting to oppose Venus, and over the next couple of weeks, Venus disappears from the morning star. We go through a big change with Venus again, going to the evening star, and that takes some time. And that's called an inferior conjunction. There's no retrograde, but because of course Venus is opposite the Earth. But we are in the best way to put it also with people and looking at all these events. How does it happen in your life? Is like the universe is asking for you to step up into the greatest part of yourself. I used Benjamin Franklin because it was like, okay, he owned newspapers. He was printing press. He was a printer. He found electricity with a kite. But he knew the most important thing was to find some sort of ally for the idea of a new nation. Right. That was going against the English. And the number one enemy of always England for 1,000 years was France. So he was the one who did it. When John Adams tried to do it, he was a Scorpio. He couldn't do it, right? He was not liked by the French. But Benjamin understood how to do it. So it's about understanding where your position is in your life, like focusing on what you're the best at, not what should I do because I think this is the best, but what do I really feel inside myself that the universe is calling me to do, and be it and to do it. And that's where you're going to find your power. And that's where I guess the yellow brick road will take us to the right place.
Man, you can't. I was singing that to David earlier. Yeah, I actually.
You don't want to be the Tin Man without a heart or without oil. You don't want to be the lion without the courage, and you don't want to be Scarecrow either. Like this is a moment to. You have what already it is that you feel that you're lacking.
In about 3 months, Earth, everything is going to be almost in a quarter.
I know.
Right? 3/4 of our star system is going to be empty.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
so if you
that's crazy.
Take all those planets, think of their bodies. There are magnetic bodies. They are massive amounts of energy, all close together, including us. It's like the big families all coming together for this moment. Our solar system family.
I'm going to go back to your point, which is it's so important for individuals to. You hear it repeated over and over again, but it's more serious than, okay, man, chase your dreams, be a dreamer. No. The world is full of, and I was one of them, people that talk and don't convert it into action. And you don't convert it into action for a lot of different reasons. Maybe you don't have the money to do what you want to do. Maybe you don't have the time. Maybe you're raising your family. Maybe your electric bill didn't get paid and your rent is due. And then the next month there's a problem and another. I get that. Life always gets in the way. Okay. But the point is, no matter how dark or how foreboding things may seem to you, the only way to turn it around is to chase your dreams, to change your focus, to apply that. That's how you change the direction that you're in to get out of the muck. I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I had nothing. I had nothing. And one day I said, you know what? Enough's enough. I'm done. Nobody's going to do this for me. Right?
No.
How important is that to just simply take the step into doing that?
Well, we just had that total solar eclipse. I actually went out to Texas for it to go witness it because I had never been under one. And it's in Aries. And what's interesting is we had one that was back in 2005. And so what's interesting about eclipses is you'll see repeating patterns in eclipses. There's sorrow cycles, but there's also when, you'll see the same eclipse in the same spot sometimes in your life. And for that one, it brings us back to the 2005 energy. And we were in the Iraq war at that time. And I remember laughing with my buddies. I was 21 in 2005. And I remember being like, these people are all afraid that people are going to bomb some movie theater. We were like, let's go to the movie theaters. Doing exactly the opposite of what they said they were doing. You know what I mean? Because it's like about the courage that you have to find. But again, this is a time to not be scared. And it also is a time where all this Taurus is. We're about to see Sun, Jupiter make their conjunction. We just saw Sun and Uranus. We're seeing all this energy in Taurus. The biggest party in Taurus we've seen. Well, 24 years ago, there was a big one, but this one's bigger. And so I would say that you already have the laptop that'll change your life. I've been saying this to people in the horoscopes. Like, you already have the iPhone that'll take the video that you want, right? It's that lack of putting the value in a correct place. So you can say a lack of self-worth, but I look at it as like a lack of like seeing the value of what you have already, right? You already have a pen, you already have a paper, you can already make the book, right? But you're putting the value on something that you haven't have yet. I want it to be on this one version of a computer that I need to get the money for in order to get that, because you don't put value on whatever it is. Let's say it's a piece of work that you're doing, like a book. It's not the book that's at value. You're putting the process of how to do it more in front of the actual thing. So this is an important moment because everything right now is truly possible with what you already have in front of you. It's about where you start putting that value system again in yourself and really realizing your talent and your skill was already given to you, right? And the best part is to go through the wild experience. The best thing in life that we learn is experience, and that's what Jupiter's about. We're about to see Jupiter leave Taurus. Last time it was in Taurus and came into Gemini like it's going to do over the next week and a half was back in 2012 in May. So it's been 12 years that we come back to the same road in our lives. And I guarantee you that every single person right now listening is like, you know what? I did feel there was something inside of me that was calling me to use something I have within myself and to bring it out to the world. And that's what this is. But this is a grander and bigger moment of it. It's like, there's no scapegoats allowed anymore for your own greatness, right? It's not even to be harsh on people in the world right now. It's about, it's hard in today's world because we're in social media. We're in all these things that don't make us feel like maybe we're valued as much because we've given that away in the past, because I don't think people really, but there might be some people who like look at likes anymore or look at that kind of followers. Like, you can associate value to those things, but I think it's that in person, that understanding, like, you're great at what you do, and to hear that, right? So it's an important moment for you to learn how to see that within yourself and that you don't need external validation. It's about learning to, put those values back into the things that you like, and you can start with the simple things. You don't have to go with like the crazy thing, but it's the experience of growing, or it's like planting the seed and watching it bloom. People are kind of running too fast instead of like, the whole process is what makes it wonderful and great. The total solar eclipse that we had definitely was the first time I've ever seen in my life so many people focused on an eclipse, because the one in 2017 that was total, that was on August, that one, of course, got some attention.
I was there for that. I was in it, and pretty cool. But yeah. It did nowhere near in the media like this last one.
Right. So it's like, obviously people are more aware of it now. Like, that these rare moments are special. So instead of looking at them as like the omens of bad, because that's the old term, omen, a bad omen, because people didn't understand what they were thousands of years ago. If you were just like on a farm and you didn't talk to the astrologers in town, or the Babylonians, or you didn't talk to the Egyptians, right? You probably looked at that thing and thought it was the end of the world,
You would have lost your shit.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. Think about, let me ask you about something.
Yeah.
You just mentioned social media. What what goes on in my day, people see me or see you, but they see me specifically do this every single night, right? But I also have a life, and I don't bring a whole lot of my life, my personal stuff onto the show. I do sometimes, right? But I don't. It's about the guests and everything else. But I got tested this week, and this is what happened. I go out. I try to do it every day. I ride my Harley out to this lake. You know, the mountains
I saw those
behind
pics.
my. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I go out there, and I go out there for nature and for peace, and it's quiet, and it's it's amazing. It's beautiful. So I go out there doing my thing, and I see all these cars. So it turns out it's the LA County Sheriff Search and Rescue, and they're looking for a body. And I walked down and, talking to the sheriffs, the divers, the pilot, the search and rescue, the helicopter. They have this ginormous Puma helicopter. It was huge. And so anyway, what? A body. Okay. It's kind of like the movie Stand By Me. Like I find myself in the middle of this thing. So I go back the next day, and as it turns out, it was a kayaker on Tuesday, didn't come back. He wasn't reported missing by his family until 2 a.m, but he was out at the lake. So the police get there at 3 a.m, and they find his kayak, and they find his car sitting there. And so then that rolls into, so now fast forward, I'm in the middle of this thing and search and rescue. And I go back the next day, and there's a huge command center. You saw the pictures, and it was like great boats, and there was a lot of personnel. So I'm in that, I'm talking to people, and I see the family. They're underneath a tree at the front of the parking lot over here. And they're there every day. So I kept riding back on my bike every day, and I'm seeing what's going on. And then yesterday, I go back, and the police are gone. They packed up. They had a semi truck. They had a command center. They had porta potties. They had racks of boats. It was insane. So many divers. It's all gone. The parking lot's empty.
It's like Ace in the Hole back in that old movie in 1951.
The
guy gets locked away.
The family is still there. So I pull down, and I park my bike, and I'm like, what's the family still doing here? And there was another guy next to me in a Jeep. And I said, hey, did they find the body? And he goes, no. I said, but what? The family's still here. What's the family? Did they find him or not? And then somebody else walks up from the lake, somebody else, and I ask him, and he goes, no, they haven't found the body yet. Well, oh man, the police are gone, so they're not looking anymore, and this poor family is sitting down here. So this is what happens, David, and I'm in shock. I get on my bike, and I pull up to the family. This is yesterday.
Whoa.
It's about 2:00. And I pull up to the family and a couple of ladies. And I said, are you the family? They said, yes. And I said, so they haven't found him yet? And they said, no. And one of them just cried. And it was Trump, man. It was so sad, man. It was just so surreal. And as I'm, they didn't really speak English, and and stuff, but we're communicating. Everything's fine. And I said, my heart's with you. My, thoughts, and maybe everything's going to turn out okay. And at that moment, somebody screams from the trees right behind us, and we hear that. and I see somebody running down the hill. It's a boy, full sprint. I mean, like running, jumps in his car. He says something to them, and he jumps in his car, and she says to me, they found him. I'm like, what? And it's this moment, man. And so I start up my bike, and I go up 50 yards from where we were with the family. 50 yards.
That's it.
Right there. Right behind. Right there. So I pull up, and I'm looking, and I see the sister. That's it. It's just me, the sister, that kid, and one cop. That's it. It's the four of us on the side of the road. And that's it. I don't want to discuss it anymore. I don't. And so I go through this whole thing. About 10 minutes later, I was like, I can't handle this. I can't. I've got to go.
That's a lot.
And so I pull out. By that time, there was like 2 other cops had pulled up. So there was 3 cars. But that was it. It was just me, the sister, the brother, and the police. That was it. That's everybody that was there. And so I pulled away. And this is where I'm getting to your point. I'm thinking to myself, all those thoughts about life, purpose, accepting challenges, don't be a dick, right? Because here we have a 30-year-old young man, 30 years old, he's 30, went kayaking and didn't come back. Yeah. And so he's, think about this.
And the whole police of the whole county looked to the whole lake and couldn't find him, and he was 50 yards
right there, right next to the family. Oh man. And so when I say to people, like right now on the show with you, man, go and get your shit done. Quit complaining, right? Just go, get it done. Get it done. And I'm not saying it to flap my jaw, and I went through this whole experience. This went on for me for a week. The last thing I thought was I was going to become part of the story.
Right.
You follow me?
I think that's a good way that I would look at it, is how people, if you take all the solar flares that we just had, which really turned into a massive solar storm with 7, extreme M and X class solar flares that even NOAA put out, that we're at G5 top storm conditions, and the aurora going all the way down to California here, all the way down to 18 degrees, I think, that down to Puerto Rico, right? We're being part of a story that we didn't think we're part of. That's the astrology,
Yeah.
Or the Earth too, at the same time, or what's happening out in space.
Yeah, and I think that we should always take the time to acknowledge people.
Yes.
We don't do that.
Yeah, appreciation.
Walking by somebody on the street. When was the last time you just said hi to a complete stranger?
I do it all the time.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's just, take the time. You can change somebody's day.
Yeah.
Right.
Save their life even, or.
Yes. And you just don't know. You don't know what's going on. And the best example I can give of this is what I went through in this last 7 days. But I didn't bring the stuff onto the air. You know what I mean? I'm not. No. And I am just an example of you and everybody that's listening right now. You're dealing with stuff every single day, right? You come in here, you listen to the show, you're in the chat, you're hanging out, but we don't know, right? But when somebody is acting strange in the chat, or something's a little bit weird, or something's funky in social media, you don't know what's going on in their world. You simply don't. And that's one of the things with social media, and with astrology affecting somebody, and the sun and the moon and the stars, and you take it personally when it's something else, external, some intrinsic, situation going on, some intangible that you don't understand, or it's going on with you and somebody doesn't understand it about you. Yeah. Right. And it's such a basic thing, isn't it?
Well, it's a basic thing all over. I mean, they just have realized that through using James Webb Telescope, that we don't actually understand the universe. They thought they had it all figured out, and they're farther from the truth than they thought. That was like the big science story of the last 2 weeks, right? That we have it all wrong. Even Einstein might have parts of it wrong, right? So it's like, okay, I think that people have to get over, because we're in where the astrology is, we're having a lot of Uranus activity. Jupiter's been with Uranus. We're seeing Venus with it, but also Pluto's in Aquarius, and it just went retrograde about a month ago. And so we have this moment here where people are looking too much at where the problems are and trying to always find too many solutions, and then getting, I think it kind of reminds me of, like, I had a buddy who, when I was young, always used to bring like the broken TV home and try and fix it. And I guess it kept him busy. But, at some points, like, you take on too many things that you think need to fix all the time, you're going to become stressed out. You're not going to actually find value, because you only find value now in what looks like it needs to be fixed. And when it's fixed, it'll feel better. But I think we have to get rid of this, what does perfect look like? Because right now we're dealing with Libra eclipses and the south node, K2 it's called, the south node of the moon, that's always opposite the north node of the moon. That's where we know when the sun and the moon meet at those invisible spaces, we'll have eclipses, is in Libra. And this Libra energy it's the purging of the last 19 years of what perfect looks like and what a perfect day should look like. Because all the shoulds and the woulds and the perfects right now are causing people to compare and to contrast way too much, and then find a problem in everything, when really it's like, just go through and show up like you said, know the value of things, and realize, hey, it's not going to go perfect, and that's what makes it great. I think that people are like overwhelmed by, well, it doesn't seem like the right temperature outside. It's like, what, you want it 67, not 67 or 65? Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, it's a little bit rainy. It didn't say it was going to be rainy today. Does that stop it? Right? Like, oh, you weren't planning on having a little bit of an argument with a friend or somebody today. That's okay. Find a solution and find the moment and keep going. I think that we're in a world that people forgot that life is not perfect, but it's perfect how it naturally plays itself out, no matter, like, you having to be with that family and continue to show up on your ride and then get to where you're part of that story. That wasn't in your, vision of, let's say, 2 weeks ago, right? But, like, did it pull you away from other things? It might have, but if you let that get to you, I mean, like, people are letting the things, like, always right now get to them that really have no weight or value. And we're learning to having to, like, look at values on the fly. Like, okay, is this better than now? I know I had set myself up to do this, but is this better now in this moment? Well, okay, this will keep lining things up in a better way. So I think people have to be flexible. And Taurus is a fixed sign. And so this is the week where it's the best astrology of the whole year. I know it sounds like people might want more, but you have to realize there is so much beauty that's happening right now. If you look at your forecast of your own life, you can see that there's a million different doors and how many opportunities there are, but you have to walk through them right now. That's Taurus is, put your money where your mouth is, put the seed in the ground and water it, but then also stay on top of watering it, right? Like this is a moment where the opportunities are in those kind of energies where you put your energy in and you constantly are consistent with it. But we also, can be very inflexible and very selfish and want something to be a certain way. And I think that we have to get that part out, and when it comes to social media, we were talking about, you look at what just happened at the Met Gala. People are like getting rid of celebrity. Like, they're blocking celebrities now. Like, I don't want to see, it looks like Hunger Games a little bit, right? Like it's kind of weird. But what's really weird is the astrology, which is in 2010, because Jupiter is 12 years around the zodiac. Uranus is 84 years. They meet every 13 to 14 years. So the last one was in Aries in 2010 when Twitter started to pop, Facebook took over MySpace. Instagram was a startup not bought by Meta or Facebook at the time yet. So it was really YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And the people who got on that ship of identity, Aries, took off. Now, because Uranus rules the internet, it rules society. Now it's in Taurus. So now the values of people are not about the Aries, the identity and who I am and my brand and my persona, right? Like it's like they want what aligns with whatever's in value to them and the same values. So that's why you're seeing a lot of splits of people being like, I don't align with the values of that person. And just because you might think they're cool, I don't, right? And it's like that's what makes World War II happen, is the values become all over the world so different. And Uranus came in 2018 into Taurus. It leaves next year. So it's one of those things to where it's like, the political thing was based upon all of us having different values, and instead of appreciating them, politics never used to be brought up even in business. Like you just didn't say if you were a Democrat or Republican in America, you just stayed away from that, right? Now it's like people are wearing it as like a badge of honor, right? Like to be like, this is my value system now, right? So what's happening is that the end point that we're at right now, it's getting to a place to where it's like people are really, I hope, because the astrology is saying like, are those values that are more important than the other values that you really appreciate deep within yourself and that you want to go do something great with, And then, of course, I can see how people are writing the script for themselves of like, well, look at what that side is doing and look at what that side's doing. It's like, well, hold on a second. It's like, what if those sides actually work together and we all work together and we all found the main value we all have, which is whatever country you're in, the best for our people, the best for the country, and that's feeling good. But, those conversations are it's part of the astrology, unfortunately. And it's like learning how to be like, you know what? We might not have a lot of common values in that area, but we have a lot of common values in this area. And so it's about learning to appreciate people for all that they are, that nobody is perfect in our view of value, right? The more that we devalue things, the worse things go.
Yesterday, as I pulled away from the scene, not all, I was thinking a lot of strange stuff, but man, how the answer of what really matters, you know what? Not a whole lot. The main stuff, right, is the stuff that we ignore. And that was the reality of and I talk about this all the time. But man, the little stuff that we turn into big stuff, when it doesn't, in the end of the day, does it matter? Does it affect you? Does it change your life? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But yet you focus on it and you're wasting your time with it. And that was one of the things. So then a very strange thing happened. Let me tell you the end of this story. In the front of my house where I have the trees, right? Yeah. So I have a bird feeder, and then I have a bird bath underneath the main tree, the big tree. And I've got a battle that has been going on for a few years now with this squirrel. Okay. So I put out the fresh bird food, but I watched this squirrel look at me dead in the eyes, David, just like this, puts his hands on the bowl, looking at me in my eyes, and pulls the bowl down and dumps it on so that ended up getting zip tied. Okay, so that's a whole thing. All right. But me and this squirrel have been going at it. Right. And he runs up into the tree, and I walk away, he'll come back down, and this thing, and and it's so I come home after this traumatic thing. I park my bike in the garage, and I come out in front of the house, and I'm like, and you know what happened? That friggin' squirrel walked up to me, walked up the sidewalk, 3 feet, and just sat there and looked at me. And I went, hey, little man, and I kind of took a step back, and he took a step forward. I was like, right on.
Yeah.
He felt it. Dude, he felt it. He felt it. He felt my trauma. I know I sound all hippy dippy, right? And new agey right now, but it happened. So then I walk over to him. He doesn't move. And I almost could have picked him up, but then he turns around, and you know what he did? He ran and dived into the bird bath.
Oh.
And
he
it was like
a shower.
It just took it all. I just kind of just relaxed, and that was it. So he disappeared. But it was a weird kind of moment when I'm looking into the squirrel's eyes, and I'm thinking to myself, this is what's important. All that other stuff, no. It's crazy. But I couldn't agree with you more. And I hope people are listening. It's so important
because really within a week and a half, things are going to change again. We've been used to this never-ending cycle for the last at least minimum 4 years. I feel like it was going on since 2018, but it's like really 2020. It's been this constant. Like, is it ever just gonna kind of slow down enough, right? But really, if you take a look, it's like, yeah, no, you're still doing like the stuff you do, but the world's about to go into this Gemini world, really extreme, which is information, computers, and you see where AI is going and so forth, which, I'm not against AI person. I'm actually think that it can do awesome things, but there's a big debate on that. But people have to realize that this is a huge moment here to go, okay, what are those things that are important in my life? And what are the talents that I have to bring? Because if you actually think about the AI thing, Google today just announced all of Google. It already is. It's embedded right now. Generative AI is built in the search bar fully now, right? They just announced it today, right? So if you have a product, let's say you sell rugs, I don't know, and somebody's wanting to find like, what's the best rug? The AI now is going to determine where they go, not your SEO. So instead of being afraid of something like that, you got to be like, okay, what makes my rugs the best? It's because of who I am and what I do with those rugs. How am I going to showcase? Everybody has to up level this moment, their talent, their skill, and realize that just like computers or just like life, we have to upgrade. This is a huge upgrade moment. We all can be better at what we do. We can all be better as human beings. We can all be better as a society, but the society really comes after the individuals first. I mean, look at the birth rates. Did you just see that over it's now the world, right? That we are now crossing more deaths than births. And what's even crazier is in America in 2023 was the lowest birth rate in 100 years, right? And I was saying this because we just had my daughter in August last year, 50 rooms. We were the only people having a baby in the middle of August in Newport Beach, California, at the best hospital, Hoag Hospital in Newport, that overlooks the ocean. Nobody having baby. So like, what really is important? How is society going to thrive after baby boomers with 3.5, the average of kids, to now, since the 80s, it got down to like 2. And now you have to have a sustainable, society at 2.1 children per family. Women are having babies now in their mid 30s to late 40s, or they're not having them. And it's down to 1.6 is the actual data number, but it's going even lower than that.
Yeah, look at China and Japan.
I know it's same happening to them and Russia, and it goes on and on and on.
Yeah. In when that report came out of Japan, I don't know what they are going to do. I don't know. They've got, they have, what was the report? 9 million vacant homes.
Yeah.
All over the place. I mean, downtown, in the country, it's all 9 million vacant homes because there's not enough people to live in them. And I always thought it was the exact opposite with Japan, right? It was always a housing crisis.
It's kind of small, but it
was always a housing crisis. There was never enough, right?
Right.
And China's going through it right now. There isn't enough people. There isn't enough kids. There's like nobody under the age of 15 in China. Right?
I know.
It's like none.
Well, that's where that incentive we're going to start to see to have kids again is going to come out. I don't know if you've been noticing, but like the whole Netflix had that Tom Brady special. And I was thinking about this in astrology, being like, we're going to see in the last weeks of May this huge change of the narrative of what America's about and what the media is about and all that. And you just saw the most unwoke thing, Tom Brady, and like them just doing everything that, wasn't supposed to be on TV over the last like 6 years. Just flip on a script. You have all these celebrities coming out, not woke, no wokeness, no, right? It's just all turning really quick.
Did you, can we talk about that for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch it live. Okay.
Me neither.
I didn't watch it live.
Have time for that.
But I watched the replay.
So did I, yeah.
And now
I was shocked. I was like, whoa.
Completely shocked. Now, I'm going to say it was a sense of relief.
Yeah.
For me. I actually enjoyed it. Did it push the boundaries? It pushed all of the boundaries.
Every button got pushed. Even buttons I didn't know could be pushed prior to all this stuff that right. There was a couple things I was like, can they actually do that? Like literally, like I'm not talking about over the last like 6 years. I'm talking about like ever before seen. I was like, did they just do that as a skit? Did that talk board?
Yeah. I was there's a TV show. It's really good. Jean Smart, and it's called Hacks. And by the way, Jean Smart, she's 72 years old. I'm going to go on the record right now. If somebody knows Jean Smart, have her play this for her, and so she can see this. Jean, I want to marry you right now. Okay, all right. So I put that out there. Jean is amazing. But the last episode of Hacks was her getting roasted in Las Vegas.
Oh.
And so, but I saw that after I saw the Tom Brady roast, right?
Oh.
And I'm like, that ain't a roast. That ain't a roast. No, that Tom Brady, I'm going to say this. I don't think he's got any regrets. Now, I saw his comments about his kids and stuff, but you know what? It takes a certain person, man or woman, doesn't matter, to get up there and take it, and then to turn around and dish it. Props, man. Props.
Yeah, I think it's a wake-up call for people because the values of people are changing. I mean, you look at like the astrology that we're in is this big moment of a platform of where the values of society is about to jump, and it's like last minute trying to change and bring it all in before we come into this next week and a half. And that really is going to then kind of like how 2012 Terrence McKenna would say it would, that then the last 6 months compress the last 6,000 years on top. Like there's this huge compression that's about to happen that comes into November, and it's not about the election. That's just that just happens to be happening, but that's really going to be the point where we all go, okay, this is why all of this has happened and where things are turning. based upon the astrology.
Okay, so with astrology, when are we going to be able to laugh at ourselves again? That's a component that has been missing, like you said, right? And you know, this Tom Brady thing, that has been missing from entertainment for a very, very, very long time. And you're right. It was just like instant on. Right. That wasn't like from 0 to 100. Right. No, that started at 80.
Yeah, exactly.
It started at 80.
And second gear all the way red line and just said go.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, I think that it's taking that energy. It's like, you know, we're at a moment now where this is where society is gonna. There's a danger, because we brought up just talking about the birth rates. And I'm going to open up a subject that it's crazy, but it's just history, you know, and it's actually just the history that's always been taught, but people forget about it. That, you know, that's what happened in Nazi Germany. They started pushing for birth rates and having 4 kids. They called them in your quiver, right? And you're seeing people start to like kind of brag about how many kids they have, right? It starts to get to where people want things back. So guess what? It's like gluttony, right?
Finish the thought.
So the fear for me as an astrologer is seeing that we're at the World War II alignments, and really a lot of what became was this gluttony of restoring values, but also in the new way too, right? Especially Nazi Germany, right? And so the big fear is people, you know, with the anti-Semitism that's going around, with all these things, it's the same alignment. I mean, I can't stress it enough. It's the same alignment. You could even do your solar app and look at the same 1939 to 40 and be like, oh, the planet's in the same spot, right? That it just becomes to where people will almost kind of do anything to have things back, and then will take it and then kind of get like, you know, eat more than needed and have that bad feeling. And so I'm worried about the world switching to a side that it feels like both sides were playing for the same hand to get us to these places. And that kind of is more conspiratorial, but the astrology is really at that place. I mean, if you look at, you know, this divide, Neptune at the end of Pisces, which makes mental health is the biggest issue right now, I would say, astrologically, to pay attention to for the next year, starting in a week and a half, that is going to be the center of focus about health in the world, because people are going to really kind of reach their, you know, whether it's the inflation, same thing happened to Germany, hyperinflation, you know, they wanted to get rid of the trans after that, and that's what brought Hitler into power. Right?
Well, yeah.
It's the same story running the same course again.
Yeah, very interesting. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, the one and only, the Leo King, David Palmer, is with us. This is Fade to Black. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. This is Jimmy Church. Please visit and explore Egypt this October 3rd through the 14th, 2024 with Billy, Elizabeth, myself, and very special guest and the #1 podcaster in the world, Sean Kelly. It's simple to do. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.com and click on upcoming tours, or click on the link below. We'll see you there. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. And right now, if you get a Game Changer membership for a limited time, you will get Fade to Black Blend coffee with your Game Changer membership. That's right. We have 2 t-shirts. We have the original, the classic Fade to Black t-shirt. You know you want one. Post a picture. Send it to us. We'll put it in our Fade to Black gallery. And we've got the new official Fade to Black t-shirt drawn by Michael Oming. 2 t-shirts, 2 ways to get them. Get yours today. Everything is in stock. Everything gets autographed. Everything includes shipping. And you're going to get a tracking number. And with a Game Changer membership, you get an email to me. You get unlimited commercial-free downloads of the show. Those are uploaded every single night after the show to the website. So don't delay. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Beckley Teppy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Oh, oops, I just cut off my own commercial. I did it for David Palmer. I did. I just cut off my own commercial. Should I play it? Here, let me. It looks too good, David. David ain't got nothing like this. Yeah, you want that. Yeah, you want that, don't you, David? You do.
I like that.
I'll trade you that. I'll turn you on to my guy if you have me look as good as you. That's all I want. Okay, so check this out. And I thought about you immediately, and I was so happy that you're going to be on the show. I was watching this documentary earlier this week, and in the documentary, it said this, that the ancient Egyptians had 13 constellations, 13 28-day months, and 1 day for reset, right? And I was like, 13 constellations? Now, the 13 months and 28 day, okay, I get that part. But let's talk about this 13 constellations. Was this documentary correct?
Sidereally, Ophiuchus, which there is more than just 12 and more than 13 constellations, right?
Right.
Of course, we have precession of the equinox. We have the Earth that's wobbling. So our viewpoint is wobbling up and down to where it looks like the sun does come into Ophiuchus, the serpent bear, right? The one that is sitting in between that Sag energy into Capricorn, right? Like there's a lot of weird, it's like a tip. But in tropical astrology, of course, we're using the understanding of the ecliptic and the sun's path on the ecliptic, right? Because the planets and the sun and the moon are always on the same path. And there's spring at the same time of year and all the seasons at the same time of year.
Right.
Right. So that's a guarantee. The one thing that we can't guarantee is what cars are and what the view is in the rear view mirror of it shaking all the time. You're on the same freeway. It looks different every day when you get on it. Right.
So would that, if would it change? Were the Egyptians onto something?
They were the ones who were about the horizon, Horus's zone, horizon, and they came up with the understanding of the horizon, the ascendant, and what understanding how to create the understanding of like what's rising, where is the hour Horus on the horizon. So we use astrology in our lives, Egyptian astrology, every day. People don't even realize that our time and everything, hour, Horus, where is Horus? The sun on the horizon, right? And then the sun set.
Right.
Right. So we have to remember that for them, they were looking at it a lot different than the Greeks were. The Greeks took parts of that. The Vedics in the southern part of the sky have all different deities, all different ways of looking at it. And they were using the tropical because it was aligned 2,000 years ago the same way. But the Egyptians were on the other side. So if you think about it, as the Earth's wobbling, the Egyptians are prior to 2,000 years ago. And there, as it's coming back to that, let's call it the 0 point,
right,
of where that precession would be equal of all 12. So we're now 2,000 years in, a little bit past, and now we're seeing now, right? We're coming into that place where it starts to look like it's not 12 anymore. And then we'll go back to being 12 again. That's the interesting part. So it's more
very
about
interesting.
It's weirder that it's like, you know, looking backwards with them, they would have seen it as it's coming more into alignment. We're seeing it as it's coming out of alignment.
The realization that hit me, and I had always read about this, which is the view of the universe from the southern hemisphere. Now, and you know, and I read you know, what was viewed and what we are seeing with telescopes in North America and in Europe and with Galileo. Southern hemisphere, right? Okay, well, the view of the night sky is the opposite for them as it is for us. Now, and before everybody gets confused,
they get to see the Southern Cross.
They constantly, And that was a big trip for me when I went to Peru, by the way, the Southern Cross, which, okay. So, but what I've tried to explain to people, okay, so I got my Lego Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see my Lego Bigfoot, everybody? Yeah. Okay. And then I have my alien hacky sack. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. So this is the Earth.
Yeah.
Right. And Bigfoot here is us. Okay. So he's standing up, right? Yeah. Okay. So if he's in the northern hemisphere and he's looking at the moon's right here.
Yeah.
He sees the moon because he's looking at the moon like that. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, you're facing that way.
Right.
So now you're looking at the moon upside down, including everything else in the night sky. You see it as opposites. Isn't that's crazy?
It sounds like the universe, how it works.
You know, you're looking at it, it's like, oh, and
well, because that's where the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer on every map is so important to people, because what determines north and south is that when the sun reaches the solstice, when we're going to be at DisclosureFest,
right?
That's when the northern hemisphere is at its peak of sunlight, and that is when we are at where the Southern Cross down there. The sun's not on the ecliptical path of that Tropic of Capricorn, right? Which is literally Capricorn, everything from when you move out of Libra, right? The second you move out of Libra, you go into the southern part of the ecliptic. When you're in the northern, you're in the northern, right? So that's why our spring to the end of summer starts in Aries on March 20th and ends when we leave to go to fall on September 23rd. That's the north. And the south is 1 degree Libra to 29 Pisces for the south. That's when the Tropic of Capricorn is ruling and the sun reaches its peak down there. So that's how astrology works. If you just break it down on the basics of 180 and 180 and look at it as why, they spend their Christmas in the middle of summer down south.
Yeah. What for me, what's fascinating about this is that these are facts. Right? 100%. These are facts. Your position on the earth and where you are in relation to and how you look up and what you are facing is fact. It's not like, everybody in Australia, the toilets flush backwards or whatever it is. Right? It's the observation of the heavens with the ancients and how they observed it on different parts of the globe for thousands of years. And they had to take advantage of the stars in the sky. Egyptians, with the flooding of the Nile and what that meant to survival and how that occurred in relation to the sun and the seasons and the time, it completely crucial to them. So they had to have a very, very early understanding of astronomy and what was going on, right?
You 100%. I mean, I look at India and also even Tibetan astrology. That's where the Tibetans gave us the understanding of the lunar cycle and that every part of the phase is important, because they base all their meditations in Tibetan Hinduism based upon the lunar cycle. So when the moon's in its balsamic phase, the 2.5 days prior to a new moon, where the moon actually looks bloody red and it's on the horizon at dawn right before the sun comes up, you just see it looks like the opposite of a crescent moon, but it is a crescent moon, but it's a waning one. But it's not bright and beautiful. It looks like the 2.5 days before a female has a new egg. So it's like the period, right? That you don't do anything on those 2.5 days before a new moon, right? That it's the Hindus that gave us that, but it's the Tibetan Hinduism that gave us that, Tibetan astrology. Then you go into Indian astrology, and of course they have different deities, but they're looking at it and they're using the position of the moon in your chart and looking at which nakshatra and which pada it's called. There's 4 padas. So they get very specific, and they actually base so much about the lunar part, where in the northern astrology, it's been based upon the solar. So that's another opposite way of looking at life, right? There's something about the people in the southern hemisphere that loved the moon, and in the northern loved the sun, as far as how we looked at astrology.
It's fascinating to me. It's absolutely fascinating, and it had to develop that way over time because of nobody, well, allegedly, is getting on a boat and 3, 4, 5,000 years ago, and traveling from the southern hemisphere to the north. That's not what was happening. Their relation was to the heavens. Was it probably in the town that they were born in? Right?
Well, in Babylon and Babylonia, Mesopotamia, we call that the home of astrology. But that's the Middle East, a lot of it. And so they had easier access to go south into China, into those places, and north, the Mongolian Empire, of course, thousands of years later. That's where, that's where you see that there's like a blend. And believe it or not, it was the people that at the beginning of, let's call it since AD began, right? The beginning of 2,000 years ago, when we got right before 1000, the Westerners, once Rome fell and was sacked, right? And even the beginnings of the Catholic Church were trying to make themselves after that was all made, right? Like there's this period where it's the Middle Easterns, the Arabs, and the Arabic astrology that holds astrology together for hundreds of years, and all the magic secrets and all the magi and all of it. So, that's where like there's Arabic parts in astrology, like a part of fortune, that's an Arabic part. So when I look at the world today and I think of all these people fighting over things and which religion, it's like astrology is a great teacher of how we, like, you can look at it as just different people around the world carry different parts of the astrology through history when they couldn't.
Yeah, and like I said, when we can imagine this or we can theorize, but if you go back to a really classic example of this is the zodiac at Dendara.
Yeah,
and you go in there and you look up at that. That's exactly what is going on. It's one of the most fascinating things, but it's also 3,500 years old.
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's crazy to think about.
Right, but they were looking at the same stuff that we are now. And I mean, I think that's where there's a connecting point. Like that's what I think makes astrology, or if you're into astronomy, even though it was always called astrology prior, same thing with alchemy before science, that there's a connecting point to our ancestors, that we see the same sky that they saw. We don't get to see the same trees. The land looks different too. But there is something that we forget, that nature is just as much the solar system and space as it is the trees and the air that you feel down here. That people separate that as not nature.
There's another part of this that I wanted to discuss before we run out of time. And that is where we are right now with disclosure. And
I was hoping that you would open that door.
Well, because just like everything else that seems to be moving at a very fast clip, like we're getting way ahead of our skis. And it doesn't matter what the subject is. You can talk about lithium batteries. You can talk about EV cars. You can talk about the military. You can talk about religion. You can talk about AI. You can talk about relationships, and whatever it is that any subject that you want to bring up, it's moving fast. And disclosure is right there with it. It's keeping pace with everything else. And how are the stars affecting this? How are the planets affecting this? Because it seems like this is a freight train just barreling down the tracks.
So, one, with Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto deals with uncovering. It deals with going to the bottom as deep as you can to get to the truth, no matter how deep it is. And when you deal with Aquarius, you're dealing with foreign entities outside of this solar system, all the way to, if you ever met an Aquarius, they don't feel like they're from here. But what's crazy to me is that on this Friday, the Sun and Jupiter are going to make their conjunction. But if we were to look at it heliocentrically, that's the Earth opposing Jupiter from the Sun in the center. And on that day, the Vatican's coming out, and they have not come out since 1978 about the Mary apparitions, right? Which deal with they're calling it the Marian apparitions of and other supernatural phenomena that the Catholic Church, and I think that this is what we've been waiting for with after all the things in Congress in America with the UAP, hearings, and then even like how they're getting stonewalled certain Congress people in the closed door sessions to get the info, right? Why is the Vatican out of nowhere showing up to be like, okay, because when they talk about Mary, people with in history have always been like, we saw the Virgin Mary in Mexico, right? That's the Lady of Guadalupe now, right? In Mexico. Right? So the Vatican feels like this need to come out, especially with all this phenomena that's going on, and reset the whole clear understanding of how to handle all this stuff. And that is an interesting kind of moment. This just doesn't happen. The last time was 1978. And we were nowhere near kind of what we're even close to even comparing to what we're seeing disclosure-wise, because it's not going to just be about the spirits, or they consider it Mary, Christ, and other spirits, but then supernatural phenomena has never really got to include this whole new thing that the government is now admitting about UAPs with the military, with the F-18 pilots, with, whistleblowers to, right? Like the whole thing has gotten shoved that now what were we waiting on the church to put something out before? Because what's ironic is Sun Jupiter deals with belief systems, and Neptune is at the end of Pisces dealing with religion. And literally the 1 degree, 165 years Neptune takes to come around the sun, it's at the last degree of the sign it rules, Pisces. And this is where, the religious thing becomes really, that's the whole, people think the Civil War is about slavery. It was partly. The other part was that those people in the South believed that Jesus and God ordained them to look after the slaves because the slaves couldn't live like normal people on their own, that God had told them to do this. If you read all Robert E. Lee's journals, it's a Christian thing to do. So people always forget that, what made the South do this? Their religion.
Well, I mean, believe
it or not, it's in all the documents that they feel like all the preachers, all that God had given them the South to do that.
But David, that's history 101.
Right.
That's history 101. It's always been that way. Why should we do this? Well,
so why did you just see Russell Brand go get baptized? He's at Conscious Life Expo all those years. Remember the year he came?
I introduced him.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then he does it, and then he pulls out a tarot card, right? And all Twitter loses their minds. Right? What I'm trying to say is that for some reason here, the religious thing and I don't want to go in down that hole of what's been happening at college campuses and all that stuff, because I stay out of that, right? But I'm on the side of nobody should be characterizing people in horrible ways, right? Okay. But why is the Catholic Church on the one day that astrologically, if I was an astrologer for the Vatican and they asked me, hey, tell me the best time to put out a message to our followers, right, of our belief, and we want to talk about phenomenon and how they're going to have to handle this stuff, what would be the day? And I would say May 17th, May 18th, and that's exactly what they're doing. That this is what they say is going to be a trigger effect, because if we also look at the astrology, Saturn and Neptune were together in Pisces in 1523, and the Vatican did the heresy laws in the Netherlands. And so it starts to become this weird thing, because maybe you don't see it in what's happening on social media, but for those of us in the spiritual community that, like, I'm an astrologer, I have a spiritual astrology network. It doesn't matter, let's say, if I'm for freedom of speech, I'm for liberty. I'm not a Christian. I do astrology, so I'm part of the dark and the devil now, right? That those days have resurfaced now, right? That if you're from California, you're obviously part of the devil, right? You do astrology, you do tarot, you look outside and you don't look at religion, right? You're the devil, right? So that is where this is the church that also I had put it up 2 years ago during the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, which is once every, 13 years, but happened in Pisces. The last time was in 1856. And there was the Pope saying, if you're into astrology or tarot or any of this divination, that's being heretic, right? And I was like, this is exactly what happened. And then people all feeling like, this whole thing that's happening in the world, people aren't realizing it's this, what's in the journals of Robert E. Lee, what's in all that is this, we were given this based off what God had told us to do. And then the Catholic Church is going to, in my prediction, try to not acknowledge any of the UAP stuff and just say that any phenomenon, be restrained, right? Even if it's Mary or you think Christ is speaking to you, whatever, you have to still go through us, right? So what if they drop a bombshell and they drop a website where if you are feeling you have some sort of phenomenon happening, our cardinal, it's like The Exorcist, right? Like, we'll send a cardinal if it's worth sending.
Right.
Now, what would that do to make the American government look like? Wait, what? Like, the Catholic Church is willing to look into it, but you guys are staying silent? Because I know that it doesn't matter your partisanship. Right now, Democrats and Republicans are pissed that really want to get to the bottom of this, that they're being stonewalled in the committees, back in the place where they're allowed to get the info, that they're being stonewalled to actually look into the stuff that was put publicly. Right?
Is it, what is it that you expect to ultimately happen on Friday? Because I've been getting the emails, disclosure, man, this Friday, man, it's going down, disclosure is happening. And
I didn't know there was emails going around. I just saw that the Vatican is putting this out, and I'm an astrologer, and it's the exact day of Sun Jupiter at the end of Taurus. This is a massive moment of like this whole setting, how religion is going to look at it, which we almost maybe need in order for this stuff to come out, right? Because it's like the American government's kind of like playing coy, and who's the president? Oh, he's a Catholic. The second Catholic president.
I didn't know that. But
right, JFK was the first. Joe Biden's the second.
It's so strange to me how quickly I pulled back from politics. And I did it.
To get to the UAP thing, though, it's the government and politics that are at play.
But what I'm saying is that I know very little now. I barely know who our president is. And it's been that way. It's been that way for me for 12 or maybe 15 years. This isn't some new thing.
No, I know.
I just for me, I just started to pull back, and it's just weird. I think before we let's get back to the Vatican here.
Yeah.
Do you think that because of the size of the Catholic Church, it's shrinking, but it's still the biggest,
$1 billion plus.
Yeah, it's still big. That they are sitting on all the knowledge. They've been collecting knowledge and throwing it into the Vatican's vaults since the dawn of man, right? Okay, so we know that, and they've probably got more of the secrets than just about anybody else on the planet. That they know the facts, and they have their own observatories. They have one They have one in Arizona. You know what it's called?
Yeah.
You know what it's called?
It isn't named after one of the saints?
Lucifer. It's Lucifer.
Or Lucifer,
Yeah, it's called Lucifer. So anyway, do you think that that there is something going on with the leadership of the church, where maybe they've seen things, maybe they've read things, maybe they're exposed, but now they want to keep control of what is going on with not only the information flow, but the Catholic Church in general, that they're trying to stay out and get out in front of this, something that governments of the world should have done, decades ago for sure.
I feel like they are trying to get out in front of, because I mentioned the mental health thing just like a little bit ago in the segment, where I'm like, Jupiter coming into Gemini is not its favorite place. We call that at detriment. It's opposite of Sagittarius, where Jupiter's the ruler. And that's because Gemini deals with Mercury as its ruler. It also deals with the Pleiades, the seven sisters. It deals with really the quote unquote origins of where our human race comes from. And Lemuria and looking at those stars is also what we call the heavens. Taurus into Gemini is the heavens, right? That's the fatness of the earth. It's the most beautiful stars, right? Because when you go south, opposite is where Antares, the great red giant, is. You go into Scorpio, that's what makes it red. So there's a lot of red in the south and a lot of beautiful blue and bright white up top. But with Jupiter that comes in, the mental health thing happens with everything in Pisces, which deals with psychological events, phenomena itself. They are mixing, I think, the AI thing with the UAP thing, with this massive migration towards the religious aspect that's been happening over the last 2 years, to capture people, to keep them from looking at these things, but also at the same time, and I'm going to drop a bomb, that Neptune at the end of Pisces is like, we have to like a lot. And I don't think it's as much the UAP things as we think. I think it's the AI stuff we're seeing with Sora now that OpenAI just has come out with over these last 6 months, which they won't release to the public. That doesn't mean they're not releasing it. If you look at Sora, you can say, make me a video of the gold rush and let me see what it would have like going over a gold rush town. Okay. 90% of the Sora videos are drone shot, and it looks like the gold rush. It looks like 1848 in the gold rush, right? Like perfect. But they're all these drone shots, and they're not in 4K. There's a little bit of fuzz. Now, my question to you, Jimmy, is like, have you seen a 4K video in the last 2 years in Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, or any of this stuff? How much of it really is real? Now, I'm not saying it's not real, but one of the other things that you notice is on the news, when they show what's happening in Gaza or anything, they don't put the source anymore. So there's no source. Like it's not like, this journalist had the drone or anything like that.
Right.
That or look at Britney Spears' account. I mean, there's plenty of people I can send you to prove that that's not Britney Spears. That's AI, right? Like her hand turning into a claw, like her eyes changing, like it's and it makes no sense for her to be doing this stuff. So the question is like, how much of it's distraction? How much of it's trying to like hint off something's going on here? And I think that that's where this is kind of the big melting pot moment, that it could be a way to help expose, to get people prepared too. But I'm waiting to see. As an astrologer, I would say that they're going to throw constraint within yourself, go through us, but that this shit is happening at the same time.
The crazy part is that I'm not taking credit for anything, but I said probably about 8 years ago, and it's because, you know, people like you and I, we're on the very edge of technology. I'm constantly exploring it and investing in it. And I love it. I come from the music industry, you know, and digital recording and microphones and this and that, and turning that into video and getting into the video and understanding really what's going on. But when I started to see in movies, just production, you go and you see something like Avatar, or you know, and you start to or Shrek. You remember when Shrek came out?
Yeah, when Pixar came out with Toy Story, the movie. That was I started, and I'm thinking to myself, and I warned everybody, it is going to get to a point when there is going to be something that you are going to see that is going to be there for deception, and it's not going to be real, but you will not be able to tell the difference. Period. We haven't had that video yet. We haven't had. I would disagree. I think that half of the Gaza videos are that.
No, that's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm saying is North Korea releasing some crazy AI video of the Pope, or of Putin, or of this or of that, just the ultimate propaganda thing to freak out the planet. And
I think that they've slow walked it with this.
It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. But do you remember who was it? Was it I think it was Sinead O'Connor. I could have this wrong.
And she didn't have good life.
She tore up the picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
I think that's what I think it was her. Was it somebody else? But anyway.
Yeah, she went through like an Ashley Biden situation. Yeah.
But, you know, something like that, right? Something, you know, Putin tearing up the picture of somebody, or whatever. But that day is going to come. For some reason, I don't think I'm wrong. I bet that different agencies around the world, like the NSA, around the world, that includes Russia and China, are constantly intercepting those files. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why you're seeing the TikTok ban. I think there's a lot more to it than that, because now that Jupiter, we're a week and a half away from literally the next holy cow moment showing up, and it's going to start really fast. And by the time that we're already going to be at DisclosureFest, we're all going to be talking about some whole new shit that is going to be like, whoa, information wise, technology wise. That's what computers are ruled by Gemini. Just OpenAI did a whole new thing, right? With the app, you can talk to her. She'll know your emotion. You can tell it the emotion to be. You can do anything you basically want on there except the video part right now, right? Anything. Okay, you could have it tell you to do this, make me that, write me a book and do it in this. And no, I don't like your tone. Make the tone like this. And you can do, it's crazy, okay? But then Google today goes, yeah, all of we've just changed Google completely. It's fully embedded, our AI. What happens in June? Apple's releasing the new iOS, 15? That's going to be in the Mac 15, but it's going to be, I think it's iOS 17 going to 18. It's going to be AI based, right? And they dropped their negotiations with Google and went to OpenAI just in the last 3 weeks.
Which is Microsoft.
That's what's so weird, right? And it's like the same thing's happening. I don't know if you remember in 94, 95, it was Windows and it was Bill Gates and Microsoft that took over. And we're in Saturn and Pisces, same thing. Apple was the big king for their, like, I remember as a kid being in school in 91, my grandpa gave me when I was fucking 2 years old an Apple IIe for my birthday. That's what I learned on Apples. But then out of nowhere, PCs just took over. Windows took over, and we're in the same thing right now where you're seeing Apple shares fall. You're seeing them be too expensive. They're limiting what they're going to be putting out now. And Windows has OpenAI, which is like nobody can touch it. That is the best AI system that's been ever made. It's integrated into everything. And now Apple's going to them. And if you don't remember, it was Bill Gates who gave Steve Jobs the money to come back to fix Apple years later.
I love the technology part, and I know that the future is the future, and it's going to be what it's going to be, right? But are we moving too fast?
No, this time feels too fast. Capricorn's very slow, and Pluto's been here, and really things are moving the way they're supposed to be moving to wake people up. And to make people actually, I think, realize that how much time did you waste over the last 16 years? That's going to be the big question at the end of November, because I think that regret is the worst feeling that you could ever have on the planet.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot of people who, the regret's up to you and yourself and whether or not you're going to make something of this journey or not. And these things are all out there to change your life.
Right.
But, when you hear people say, like, there's going to not be a lot of jobs, that astrologically is true. That's been something I've been warning about since using the astrology. In 2017, I'd done many talks, did tours in 2018 around all of America to put the warnings out that by 2024, you better be. And I told the elderly, I said, you're going to be the generation, the Pluto Leos, the people born in the 40s all the way through 1957. I said, you're now the opposite generation of the world once this happens. Because Pluto in Aquarius means anybody born with Pluto Leo, you're the opposite of where the whole world's at. And that's the baby boomer generation. And now we're in a generation where there's no babies. So how are the Social Security bills going to be paid? There's not enough workers.
Right.
Then the jobs right now, like look at fast food here in California. It just skyrocketed because it's $20 an hour. And what are all the people? McDonald's might be going out of business. That was 2 weeks ago, CNBC. So they're changing their whole menu. Starbucks is losing 15% of their stock because nobody's buying coffee. But they can all be replaced by AI, robots, all that. So this is where it's not a joke. It's not that it's moving too fast. It's you're not moving fast enough with the pace because of maybe a fear, right? Or whatever. It's evolution of the times. Like that's the thing is people think it's always the end of the world. All the end times ever mean in the actual translation is evolution. The end of that time and then change of this time.
Yeah, but we all have seen Terminator 2.
Oh yeah. I mean, when you saw that manta ray shit, that DARPA, I was like, what the heck?
I'm still and what happened? I don't know if you caught this. The next day, right? DARPA announces the manta ray. What happened the next day? Australia shows theirs.
I know,
right?
It feels very James Cameron Abyss,
dude, and they're not small. No. That's the other thing. Those things are ginormous. Unmanned. Down there
they can go without having to refuel or anything. They're self-sufficient
for years.
I know.
Yeah, crazy.
So is it moving too fast or just like we have not been in the know, and we're just trying to catch up?
Well, okay, that's a really great point because we see the manta ray. By the way, what David and I are talking about, for those of you that don't know, DARPA just announced that they have
UUP. I think that's what it's called, right?
And, it looks like a manta ray. It's an underwater, top secret military underwater drone that can stay underwater. Well, technically, we don't know.
They're basically saying like 50 to 100 years.
Yeah, just and stealth, and it can sit on the seafloor indefinitely, and you'll never know. So anyway, and it's big. So anyway,
and carry nukes.
This is the crazy part. They make the announcement, and the public reaction is like, "Oh, they invented that last week."
I know.
No. That project has been in development in secret for a very, very, very long time.
I want to see the camera footage at the beginning to now.
Yeah. We're seeing the end result, and
I mean, like when they look at Nord Stream, like what happened? Manta ray?
Yeah.
Right? Like we keep thinking of the old school way, like some divers came down and they placed some charges down here and then they got back up and they had to make sure that they didn't get the bends.
Yeah, like Johnny Quest.
Right? Where it's like, now that I see the manta ray, I'm like, oh, the manta ray just came by and went, what was going to be the need of a submarine with a whole crew?
And this is what they want us to know about.
I know.
This is what they're allowing us to find out.
Well, because it's by where you're at, Skunk Works, with the B-21 new stealth bomber, what do you think because they won't reveal the secrets of it. They don't even tell you what it really does. I think it goes into space. That's what I personally think.
David, for full transparency, for those of you that don't know, and David being my guest, but also a guest at my house, he can tell you, I'm not flapping my jaw. Lockheed Skunk Works, you can see from my backyard.
Yeah.
It's right there. And you just sit out in my backyard, which David and I have done together. Set out all the chairs. We got the night vision, right, David? and the show starts. And I often wonder, with all the technology that is going on there, and then of course you have Edwards, next door. The stuff that is happening right now, and then you tie that into disclosure and Grush. When backwards engineered, and we've got flying saucers, and we've got the pilots, and we've got this, and I've got the addresses, and I'm hearing that, and then all I got to do is go, so he's talking about that, right there, that's what's going on, and we don't know. And it was kind of funny, and I'm sure that you thought the same thing, to watch the faces of the members of Congress. Right, I know, like as if what was weird is David Grush on his LinkedIn started a company that he's been hired by the U.S. government. You can look this up, to give the information to help a soft disclosure to reveal all. That was what blew my mind last year, was that like he doesn't talk about that part. And then he goes around, he was on Wall Street doing it right after he was in Congress, informing all the head CEOs of all of Wall Street. I was like, wow. So he's kind of like the representative for the U.S. government, looking like, I'm trying to help you guys get to the U.S. government, even though they hire him. I was like, that's a little weird. David, we were supposed to give away tickets tonight to DisclosureFest.
I say anybody who's a Taurus, because this is their time.
Okay.
Like ultimate good luck.
If you are a Taurus, and you want to go to DisclosureFest, the first Taurus to post in the chat. Now, Bill, I'm going to leave it to you, Jessica, and Dex and Jonathan.
You have to put your birthday so we know you're a Taurus.
Yeah. If you're a Taurus, I've got a pair of tickets for 2 full boat, full weekend tickets to DisclosureFest, and get it up there. And then I want the moderators. It's a 1 in 12 line here. Taurus 422. Okay.
Yeah, that's a Taurus.
Okay, so Gary Stamps came in first. Okay, what about May 3rd? Is that a Taurus?
Yeah, that's a Taurus.
Okay, they came in at the same time, both at 8:55. Okay, so Gary, and what's the other one? Jock full of nuts. What is that?
I would say Gary because he's born April 22nd and Pluto squaring his sun, so he's going through a lot. He could use it.
What's a jock full of nuts? That can't be a God-given name.
Jockey?
That can't be a God-given name. Okay, Gary and Jock Full of Nuts, I need you guys to both email me, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Now, you're going to get the tickets. You need to go, right? Don't go and take the tickets from somebody else if you live in Boston and you have no intention of being at Castaic Lake.
No scalping.
Yeah, exactly. Because so I'll give away 4. I'll do that. I have the juice. I have the juice card.
The juice
I can do that. So
that was on the Tom Brady thing. The juice is loose.
Yeah. I thought a Bronco on the 405. Yeah, that was a good joke. What's her name?
What's her name was fire. I was like, both those women were fire.
Both of them. Jan, Sam.
They were both. I was like, that was real stand-up comedy. Like
man. I mean, that was class A stuff. Anyway, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Gary and Jock Coconuts. I need your real names. I need all of that stuff. Get it to me via email, and you're going to DisclosureFest over the Stars. You're going to be hanging out with David Nye and Billy Carson, 19 Keys, JK Ultra. Man, she's amazing.
She's awesome.
JK's no joke, man. She's no joke.
Yeah, her and I both won the same award.
Yeah.
At the last one, so
yep.
Our whole table won, actually. We were the only table that we could say, yeah, everyone here won.
I do a lot of things like that, awards, and I host and things, and I do that a lot. Even though that was my event, Adrian and I's event. That was one of the best award ceremonies and evenings I've ever been a part of. And that was a lot of fun. It changed
the whole community forever.
That was powerful. That was a good time.
Yeah. And we're all going to Kurt Gibson this whole world. So don't freak out. If we're going to feel like we're walking up to the first game of the World Series, we didn't play. We're all feeling handicapped and we're going to hit the home run. And we're all going to run around the bases going, yes. So
I saw that live.
So did I. That's my first memory.
Yeah, I saw that live on a black and white TV, by the way.
Wow.
Little black and white TV. I was like, did that just happen?
But that's what I look at the astrology is that the overall, the big, long view of this next 3 years with disclosure, with all the weird things that people are afraid of, we're banged up. We're going to hit the home run, and it doesn't matter what's happened. We're going to hit the home run as a society and as a world, and we're all going to round that base, and we're all going to have the biggest smile, and we're all going to celebrate. And even when the pitcher's the hardest pitcher to go up against, and he's in perfect health, and we are banged up, we're going to hit the home run.
That's what I'm talking about. David Palmer, you are the very best, my friend. And I'll give you a call tomorrow, but for now, just enjoy the rest of your evening. Go be a dad.
Right on. Thanks, Jimmy.
David Palmer, the Leo King. And once again, I get to say that was a perfect show. Absolutely perfect show. Thank you so much, David. And congratulations to Gary and Jock Full of Nuts. Congratulations. I'll see you guys at Disclosure Fest. Just shoot me that email and we'll get you all set up. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Glynis McCants is here, and we are going to be doing numerology. Yeah, that's right. She's going to run my numbers tomorrow night. I cannot wait for that. This is Fade to Black, and don't forget that this show is produced by Hill J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, John Oside. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Dex. Congratulations, Gary and Jay Coconuts. See you guys at Disclosure Fest. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night with Glynis McCants, I want you to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.